Good afternoon guys and welcome back to Dave's Continuous Learning, and we are talking short game. So unfortunately it is raining, but it's a prime example of what we want to go through today. We're going to show you how you can practice your short game on the driving range or indoors if you can't get down to your chipping green or out on the golf course if it is absolutely throwing it down. So we've got some, well, like it is, yeah, and it has been all day. But I'm off to Texas tomorrow, so it'll be a little bit warmer. So enjoy this weather, Dave.
Yeah,
so
thanks for that.
We've got some drills that we're going to show you and talk you through now, which is what Dave's been working on through the winter. But first of all, what we want to do is show you Dave's motion, show you things that we've been working on that aren't quite where we want them to be yet, but it's obviously continuous practice, nothing happens overnight. But Dave's short game has certainly improved over the last couple of years. His playing partners do mention that that's the most annoying thing about Dave is his short game.
Nah, there's plenty of things that are much more annoying about me.
Being a Leeds fan is one of those things. But if you are interested in lessons, exactly what I'm doing now, we can do online lessons, or this would be a lesson that you would have if you can get to Waterfront. So if for any more information on online lessons or coming here to Waterfront, drop me an email on the email below. And as for now, we'll go through Dave's technique and then we'll talk drills. So if we have a look at Dave's chipping now, we can see that from down the line, I've drawn two lines on there. We've got one up the shaft and we've got one on Dave's backside. From face on, you will see we've got one line against his left hip. So if we talk down the line first, you can see he's a little bit close to the ball, a little bit tall, and that's one thing that we worked on with Dave. And one big thing we've been constantly working on is this takeaway. So Dave likes to get it a little bit inside, and this is why he's so shallow on some of the shots. So a lot of drop kicks, sometimes can catch it thin, doesn't always know his distance control. You can see that's a long way inside, and then we've got a lot of movement. It returns pretty much to where it was. We've got a lot of movement from that right knee, so that's one thing we've got to watch. That likes to come forwards, and you see then he loses his angles and the club finishes a long way around him and not out in front of his turning body. So we can see why that happens from face on. So good setup, ball position a little bit back. We've got the club face ever so slightly open. The left foot is nicely turned out to help him rotate. That's one of the big things we want to watch. You see, as he takes it away, stays nice and centered. We lose a little bit of connection in the right arm on the way back. Then we can see how very much hitting at the ball. So accelerating into the ball. Comes in, returns it pretty good, but we can see there he's already interacting with the turf. So we'll see there, he's already making contact before the ball. And then just like in his long game, we've got this chicken wing. So that's something throughout Dave's game that we're working on. But we can see why the club finishes so far around is we've got a lot of hip movement, and that actually works back. So we should see in short game, he finishes on that left-hand side with his chest turning the club out in front. Because we've got a lot of movement from that lower body, he's changing his low point, he's changing the club face angle, and that's why we start to see with Dave a lot of the time he hits it to the left. So he pulls a lot of these chip shots, and we've done a few things to help that. If we look at his head, we also see there's a lot of changes in his height. So up and down, that's going to affect your low point. That's going to maybe make Dave's low point a little bit earlier hitting the ground. And that's what we see, especially when we get onto firmer ground. It's not always easy for Dave to get a strike. So let's show you the drills now that we've got Dave working on. Dave's currently got his favourite setup here, which is working on takeaway. So like we saw on the videos there, one big thing we had was Dave's takeaway would normally work inside. And if Dave works this inside, you'll see. Oh,
if I work it inside,
he did it right there. We'll hit the basket. So on the driving range, you can set this up nicely. You will see that the alignment sticks the same angle as the shaft. So you'll see a bucket or a basket even comes in handy here. So we always have that at the driving range. And what you'll see from Dave here is he's trying to work that club more out. As we saw in his videos, he would still want to bring it a little bit inside. And then from there, we have to rotate through. So Dave's been working on this a lot when he gets down to the driving range. You'll see there what's a classic error that he tried to do was sneak that ball further away from the alignment.
Makes it easier, Chris. It
certainly does, but when we set this up, what I will do is if I borrow Dave's club, it's nice and easy. We have a golf ball in line there. I'll rest it on the club. And straight back, that's where we will have that. You'll see that is much closer to the alignment stick now than where Dave had it. He probably had it 6 inches out,
Yep.
which then allows him to get a little bit inside. So this is something you can set up nice and easy. So when you do your chipping at the driving range, we've got all the different targets out here. So we've got your baskets, we've got all kinds of targets. Get this down and practice this, and you can do this even up to 100 yards or even all the way up with your full swing. Just feel confident with it before you try it with a driver. But you'll see there, this gets Dave getting the ball launching a little bit lower, more crisper strikes there, and even on a mat, when we get onto the grass, it is much better for him getting into this position. We get a little bit more angle of attack, so we know that Dave likes to drop kick the ball.
I don't like to, Chris, it's just what happens.
Yeah, he doesn't like to drop kick the ball, but it just happens. But there we can see now, if Dave just hits us a 10-yard chip shot in front, so that's a nice couple of practice swings with that. That's good. So you can see it's going a little bit left, and it started a little bit left. So what that brings us into is why we have this second alignment stick. So you often get your 2 alignment sticks in your pack. So if Dave sets that up now for us, that is to make sure that we get the ball position where we want it, and Dave working through the ball better. So if Dave takes his setup now, you'll see how that ball position has crept ever so slightly forwards towards his lead heel. So that's past the low point, and then that is going to encourage him to pull that. So we want to get Dave's stance a little bit narrower.
Yep.
Good, which he's just done there, and further back in the stance. So that's good. So that's a lot different to what we saw on the videos, and we see that's a common trend with Dave and why he pulls a couple of those chip shots. So
I think it's because I feel less stable when my feet are close together, Chris.
Which is exactly why we do that, so we can control the speed. You'll see now it is easier for Dave to get this club working out, and then we should get this ball starting much better online. Oof, there you go, and that's what happens. A prime example, Dave's showing us what happens is if he hits that, that's what happens. So we need to reset that stick now, so it's at the same angle as the shaft. Good. And if I come back here, Dave now knows, and he knows it's really exaggerated for Dave. It feels alien.
It feels awful, Chris.
And he has been working on this a long
I
time.
do try and stick to it, but it's really tough.
See that Dave still pulled that one. So one thing you'll see is when Dave makes his motion, if you make some practice swings, Dave, if we watch his right knee, we see how that's very active. So we've got a lot of movement in that lower body, which if I come in now with Dave's 56 and show you, if I get this lower body working forwards, I'm going to have to close that club face and everything's going to finish a little bit left. So what we're going to get Dave to do is when he sets up his drill nice and easy, from here we're actually going to get Dave, everyone will have been told to open up your stance. We're actually going to get Dave to drop this right foot back and feel like it's a little bit straighter. So there's less movement for this knee to make it come in. It's locked a little bit there. He can then bring the club outside of his hands. Then on the way through, it's much more of the chest turning, and you'll see that will get the ball starting much more online. Famous last words, because Dave's now got to come and attempt that. But we're keeping this lower body stable. We don't want to see a lot of movement in here with short game. It wants to be your upper body that's doing the work, and the lower body is less active. So
yeah, I mean,
and we've done that with Dave before. It's just obviously, like you say, he's coming back into this season and trying to get these things done where we are more consistent.
I do feel that I am using my upper body more than I ever have before, but there's still a little bit of a mistake, and I do have a tendency to pull the short chips.
Yeah, and that's what we want to get rid of for Dave, because he's chipping much better, but we still see the tendency is left, which is what we see from all his clubs. So right foot's back, right leg's a little bit more locked. Good. And you'll see there a lot less motion from that lower body. And you'll see instantly started much more online there. So 2 drills there and 2 things Dave's got to watch and cover. Again, we've reminded him of that right foot being a little bit back.
Yeah.
But a nice easy drill for you to do on the range for your chipping, so your chipping practice is productive.
It is. You don't have to get to the range for it, Chris. You can actually, it's on the practice that you can get the balls that don't go very far, and you can do it.
Foam golf
yeah,
balls.
You can do it in front room if you want to really annoy the dog.
Yeah, if you could annoy the dog or the missus, if you want to do this in your front room, don't say that I suggested it. At least we can blame it was Dave's idea to do that. So
that's why we need a new carpet, Chris.
That's why Dave needs a new carpet. He's not going to buy a new carpet. I mean, it was a stretch to get some new clubs. So guys, this is a nice little setup you can do to practice, and we'll see that Dave's been working this on a long time. His short game has improved, but he's just forgot a little bit. Little things go like dropping that right foot back, keeping that lower body more stable will help him with his start line. So going into the season, this is a good checkup. And like I said at the start of the video, if you want to look at online lessons and go through the short game just like we've done with Dave, drop me an email on that email below. And next week we'll be going through Dave's pitching. So we've filmed Dave's pitching up, which is another part of the game for mid-handicappers and even low handicappers. Is an area where a lot can improve. We don't go for lessons with pitching. A lot of people don't go for chipping lessons. They get better with the irons, better with the driver.
But we don't go and practice it either. We just turn up at a driving range and hit a few irons and then
get to the driver.
Leather a driver.
Leather a driver, a technical Yorkshire term as well. So get down, get to practice this. You've got then a setup where you can do this. Is where you're going to save a lot of your shots. If you chip it a little bit closer, you're going to have less putts, you're going to lower your scores, and hopefully, like Dave, you're going to get to single figures if you're not already there. So guys, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you again later in the week.
See